I see thousands of watches a year, probably like hundreds of thousands of watches a year. And I get hands-on with a lot of watches. Today's video is about the watches that I see on other people's wrists. So I work in the banking industry, I work in finance. I see a lot of different watches at work, but I also see a lot of different watches in my personal life. So I'm gonna be talking about the most worn watches that I see outside of my hobby and the people around me, the actual people that just wear watches and what they're wearing. So I mostly see people at work, right? Because most of my time is spent at work. If I'm not at work, and like I said, I work in finance, I am usually at a watch event. So that's where I'm spending most of my time, or I'm with my kids. Sometimes I'm shopping also. I live in New York and I'm always paying attention to somebody's watch. So the first thing that I do when I meet somebody or I'm talking to somebody is, of course, I look at their watch. I know it's weird, but I think a lot of people who are into watches kind of do that. And I'm always trying to notice other people's watches, even if I'm not meeting them. I'm just walking on the street, I look at people's watches. So a guy just walked by with an iWatch. So I know everybody's watch. So number one, and by far the number one watch that I see, not only on people's wrists at work, I'm talking about just walking around the street, even at watch events. I see them on people's wrists at watch events, and I'll explain how. It's the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch by far is the most popular watch that I see everywhere I go. When I go on vacation, if I'm at work or a watch event, I see Apple Watches. Now, when I'm at a watch event, I see an Apple Watch usually on the opposite wrist of the watch. The mechanical watch is on one wrist, and then they have the Apple Watch on the other wrist. It's a tool. A lot of people love them, and obviously they work, so the Apple Watch does make sense. I don't personally like them, but they are absolutely everywhere. A lot of the watches that I feature here on my channel have micro adjust. Today's video is brought to you by Anson Belt, a belt that features micro adjust. They are really well made. They have over 10,000 buckles and belt combinations. They have over 40,000 five-star reviews, and you can't go wrong when your belt sounds like this. Each one of those clicks is the sound of your belt adjusting exactly to your size. And because Anson Belt and Buckle are sponsoring this video, if you click the link below in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now, you'll get 2 bonus pieces for free, a belt and a buckle. That means you'll get 3 buckles and 3 straps that you could mix and match into 9 different combinations. I've been wearing my Anson belt for a few months now, and I love it. It's extremely comfortable. You could adjust it on the fly while you're at work or at the dinner table. It's really well made, and it's great for travel. All you need to do is bring 1 buckle and 2 straps, and you get 2 different looks, and it's really easy to switch between the 2. I'm loving my Anson belt. So will you. Number 2, and this is not going to be a surprise, especially considering where I work, Tudor and Rolex. Tudor and Rolex together because there's sort of a tie there. I see a lot of Tudors, more and more Tudors over the years. I see a lot of Rolex. So number 1 definitely is the Apple Watch, even while I'm at work. But number 2, a close number 2 is Tudor and Rolex. I would say they're almost tied because I see so many Tudors now, and it's usually the Tudor Black Bay. That's what I'm seeing. And then when we're talking about Rolex, it's usually the Daytona. And if it's not the Daytona, it's a Datejust. Because the Submariner I don't see very often. I also see the GMT Master 2 a lot. But that's really it. I don't see a big variety of Rolex. It's really those 3 models. You never see a Milgauss. Here and there, maybe an Air King, but that's really it. So obviously it's not my job to pay attention to these sort of things, but it's just inherent in me. I want to see everybody's watch, so I always take notice. I would say the number 3 brand, which is really kind of the number 4 brand, it is Cartier. I see tons of Cartier on people's wrists, especially again at work, but at a lot of meetups I see Cartier. I don't see a ton of Rolex or Tudor at meetups. So we're talking about people, watch collectors here that collect numbers of watches. I don't see a lot of those watches, but I do see a lot of Cartier. I feel like Cartier has become a collector's watch in some way. People are starting to collect Cartier, or almost every single collector has a Cartier in their collection. The most popular Cartier I see is the Santos. Hands down, I see tons of them. And again, I see those at work, I see them at meetups, I see them on people's wrists. Very, very popular watch. The number 4 watch and the number 5 watch, I see tons of these watches. I would say I see them almost as much as I see the other watches, but maybe I'm not taking notice of them as much, and you'll see why in a second. So G-Shocks, I see a lot of G-Shocks on people's wrists, but a lot of times I don't know if it's an actual G-Shock or maybe it's a G-Shock knockoff, but I do see tons of G-Shocks when I'm walking around. And again, at work I see a lot of G-Shocks, and maybe not at meetups, but I do see them at work a lot and people on the street. Then after that, I would say Citizen, specifically Eco Drive watches. I see tons of Eco Drive watches on people's wrists. Citizen, very popular. I think they're one of the most popular watch brands in the world, or currently are the most popular watch brand in the world. Considering you could buy a Citizen almost anywhere, it kind of makes sense that they are on the most wrists. So I see them a lot on a lot of people's wrists. Another watch that I see very often is Breitling. Breitling seems to be very popular, especially with people who maybe aren't all that into watches. Because when I start talking to people and they have a Breitling on their wrist, they never ask me about the watch that's on my wrist. We never really get into watches. So they know I'm into watches, but we don't end up talking about watches. So that leads me to believe that a lot of people who wear Breitling maybe aren't into watches. Maybe that is an assumption, and yeah, it kind of is, but I don't know. Let me know if you disagree down in the comments. Do you think people who are into Breitling are into watches? And when I was writing these down, this one kind of surprised me because it surprised me and kind of disappointed me. Omega. I would think you would see a lot more Omega, but I really don't. And there's only one Omega that I see very, very often, and that is the Speedmaster. The Speedmaster, obviously a very, very popular watch, and it really is the only Omega that I see on other people's wrists. And again, I see these at meetups, and I also see them at work very often as well. The next 2 brands I would say are tied. One of them is not a brand. So the first one is micro brands. So micro brands in general, I think, have gotten very, very popular with a lot of people. And most people with micro brands immediately strike up a conversation with me. If it's an event, of course, but even at work, a lot of people have started conversations with me about micro brands. And not because they know that I'm into watches, they actually know who I am through YouTube. So a lot of people who are into micro brands end up watching some of my content, and they, recognize me through work, which is interesting and has happened in the past. But micro brands specifically, very, very popular. I'm seeing a lot more of those on a lot of wrists. Finally, Seiko. You would think Seiko would be way more popular than they are, but I do not see a ton of people wearing Seiko. I would say I see them often, so I see them here and there, enough to make it to this list, but I don't see enough for them to be higher on this list. I only see them very sparingly. I never see high-end Seiko. I don't really see people wearing lots of Grand Seikos when I'm at events, again, or at work. I don't see a ton of Seiko, which is pretty surprising. And again, specifically high-end Seikos. We're talking about like SLAs or LXs and watches like that. I don't see a ton of those, which is kind of weird because, they must be selling them, right? So if they're selling them, why aren't people wearing them? I never see them on anybody's wrist. Again, I live in a bubble. Well, not really a bubble. I live in New York City. And when I'm walking around the street, I still don't see Seiko. So Seiko is somewhat disappointing. I own a Seiko. I own a lot of the watches that are on this list, except for maybe right now, Tudor and Rolex, but everything else, and Breitling, of course, but everything else I own. So if you see me on the street, there's a possibility you're going to see me with one of these watches on my wrist, including Seiko. The last watch on this list that you will not see me wearing, and not because I'm a hater of the brand, it's just because, listen, I get it. People like these watches. I'm just not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of their design. They have some okay designs here and there. It's Invicta. I see a lot of people wearing Invicta watches on the street and at work. I don't see them at events. So I don't think I've ever seen, maybe I've seen one. Actually, I have seen one. And I did a video about one that was like a $15,000 Invicta that was made with gold and platinum. I made a video about that, but other than that, I never see anyone wearing Invicta at watch events or watch meetups. I do see them at work though. From time to time, I'll be looking at someone's wrist and I will immediately know that they are wearing an Invicta because it's this large, brashly designed watch. Sometimes I think people would consider them tacky, and there are a lot of them. Ironically, I see a lot of those at work as well. And these are people who I guess are into watches but collect Invicta. There are a lot of Invicta collectors out there who exclusively collect Invicta. Guys, this is a thing, and I would imagine there's even some people who watch this channel who collect Invicta. If you collect Invicta, throw a comment down below. I'd like to know how many people out there that are watching me collect Invicta. It's pretty interesting. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm not a hater on Invicta, I just don't like them myself. Anyway, guys, those are the watches that I see on a regular basis here in New York City, working at a major bank in finance and going to watch events and club meetups through my club, the Gotham Watch Club, and then of course just walking around New York streets like I am right now. And I bet you 100% that if I look around, I'll find somebody wearing at least one of the watches on my list, specifically the Apple Watch, because it is the most popular watch in the world. So I see them literally all the time. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. A little bit of a different scenery for this video. Decided to take a walk and do a video on the go. Tell me if you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel, and I very, very much appreciate it. Now that I have broken a sweat, it is extremely hot out here in New York, I will end the video. Thanks again.